Brilliant, brilliant. Good morning. I'm glad you're awake, finally. Brilliant, brilliant. I'm just glad you're here. I'm just glad you're here. How are you, Cheryl? How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm not good.
Oh, yeah? What's going on? What's going on? Let's hear. Let's hear.
Well, I mean, first of all, and primary is that in the last 24 hours, it's like my power of choice is weakening or abandoning me.
Wow.
And I feel this intense need to just scream and let it out.
Wow.
But
Well,
I
go
don't
ahead.
want to.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting. In what ways? What specifically brought this on?
Greg made assumptions about me yesterday. Yesterday was a crazy day.
Interesting.
I stopped in a convenience store, and the little key fob that you have with your car, that your remote, I was
Yeah.
getting a message in my car that my battery on my remote was getting low.
Uh-huh.
So I stopped at this convenience store and I thought, well, until I get this battery thing figured out, and I don't know how to open the fob, I'm going to leave the key in the car running, because I'm just running in and running out.
Yeah.
So by the time I come out, this Hurricane Ida is in full force. My keys are locked. My car locked itself.
Wow.
With the keys in it. All 4 doors were locked.
Wow. That's fascinating. Were the car still on?
Yes.
Wow, that's a malfunction of the whole
The
car
whole
pump.
system, because the car is never supposed to lock itself with the keys in the car.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's a malfunction. Wow.
So there I am. I've got 1% power on my phone. So I know I got 1 phone call.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm at an Indian Run mini mart where they're just slightly, I don't know if they're Indian or what they are, but they're slightly not very nice to you when you go in there. So I know I can't hang out in his store. The hurricane's hitting. There's like 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, driving rain. I got 1 phone call.
You guys felt it all the way up in Pennsylvania. That's amazing.
Oh, we're still flooding. Our rivers are flooding.
Wow.
The flood level on the Delaware River, which runs right through my town, is somewhere around 22, and they expect it to crest at 28 later today.
Wow.
So yeah, there'll be significant flooding in my town. Now I live way up on the hill, so it won't affect me, but there was at least 15 to 20 road closures from flooding in my city.
Wow.
From yesterday. So anyway, I'm in this. I call Gregory, and he just, I know where you were. There's a friend of mine that he does not want me to have any contact with, and I don't. But she lives in that area. And I said, no, I came up here to feed the dog because my friend's dog needed to be fed and she wasn't going to get home in time, and he's very sick. So I came up here to feed her dog. I stopped at the mini mart. No, you didn't. I know where you were. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. You know, I don't deserve this. You know, I took my last couple of dollars I had in my wallet, and I stopped at the fish store to get you your haddock, which you love, sitting on my front seat, so I could come home and make you a nice dinner. I don't deserve this. That got combined with that really upset me. I didn't deserve to be treated that way. And I've done nothing to be not trusted. You know, and something had happened earlier in the day, and I asked Susie about it. How do I handle this? I thought I moved beyond it. That's another historical. There was a girl that lived in my farmhouse that Greg used to spend a great deal of time over there once she became single. There were videos that she put on Facebook of him
You see what's going on with Greg, the projection of lack of trust onto you in order to rationalize his own untrustworthiness.
So
if you are also doing stuff, it makes his crap okay.
right. So he was
So
spending a lot of time over there. This is historical, though. This goes back 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And I questioned him, of course, and he denied it. And I said,
at the time, I'm assuming you mean at the time, not now.
At the time, and he denied anything was happening.
Yeah.
But little things like now that there's a couple living there, he no longer has to go to the farmhouse to do all these things he used to have to go there to do. And then you kind of giggled on my Facebook post where I said the cat cartoon, you're my best friend, you're my everything, I love you so much, I don't know what I'd do without my cat. And the cat says, fuck off. Well, I had a cat like that. Her name was Fluffer.
Yeah.
He used to attack Greg when
I had a cat like that, but I'm thinking there's a little bit of a deeper meaning to your post now.
Yeah. Well, the cat used to attack Greg. She was completely disinterested in me, but I loved her anyway.
But she was actually hostile towards Greg. Disinterested to you, but hostile towards Greg. Interesting.
Yeah. So this girl who used to live in my farmhouse, who almost never writes anything on any of my posts, said, that makes me laugh, LOL or something.
Yeah.
I used to love to hear Greg's stories about Fluffer when he would see my cat Charlie at the top of the stairs.
Oh, interesting.
And my first thought is, does somebody want to tell me why my husband's going upstairs at your house?
Yeah.
Because the stairs are nowhere. It's my farmhouse. The stairs are nowhere near the door where he would need to go to collect the rent or.
Yeah.
You want to tell me why my husband's going upstairs at your house?
Yeah. Fascinating.
And I thought to myself, I really thought I was realizing it.
But you see your power there, your power of perception via implication. Right? She didn't think you'd put 2 and 2 together there and see the implications of this. Hey, you know what? This is like, that he went upstairs. Very powerful. Very cool. Very cool.
So, I, between waiting for him in a hurricane for an hour to come pick me up, and then being accused of something I didn't do, and then having this gnawing in the back of my head, and I kept trying to hold on, trying to hold on to my choice to stay appropriate and diplomatic. And I tried and I lost the battle and I screamed bloody murder. And it makes me sad that I lost the battle.
Yeah. But again, too, don't be too sad, because Greg was being, ridiculously, egregiously inappropriate here. And just really horrible. And also part of it is, immediately after the whole airport incident.
Right. It's like, oh gosh, what would I do without you? I'm so happy you're mine. But
I think that's adding to it, where they realize now it's his opportunity to restore the balance, in terms of superiority
or the
and
imbalance.
Right.
As it is.
Exactly. To restore what he perceives as an imbalance now, where in your favor it has to now reverse. So the first opportunity that he's now got to reinstitute the superiority paradigm. You already gave that to him. It's like, dude, seriously, you don't need to do this. So what he's done is egregious. So you're blowing up at him. Hey, I don't know. It's kind of appropriate, if you ask me.
Well,
to say, I'm not going to take this.
It didn't feel that way because that's not who I want to be anymore. I want to be in control.
No, I
don't want to give away my power,
I'm just trying to ameliorate it. Yes, I'm not saying that was appropriate. I'm just saying it's not entirely inappropriate. Does it mean there could be better ways? Yes. Does it mean that it's, completely, absolutely something that, wasn't something that came out? All right, no. So I'm just looking for balance here, that's all, just to appreciate the whole situation. And, it's an emotional release. So at least make use of it and say, okay, it's done, it's gone, it's let out, let's move on. But also I would at some point, make it clear to Greg, say, hey, Greg, we're not the same people. Just be aware of that, and just because we are not the same person, neither of us is perfect, but that doesn't mean that we are the same either. And, just because I make mistakes and you make mistakes, doesn't mean that we always make the same mistakes. So, just live with it. That's it, and trust us. If you don't want to trust me, then don't live with me. End of story. I'm willing to do that with you, but it doesn't mean you have to do the same.
Yeah, and I mean, really, the evidence that stacks against him is hard to ignore.
Yeah, exactly. So say, look, just because you've done stuff that is doesn't mean that I do. Or furthermore, I live with you and you've done stuff that causes me not to have full trust in you. Well, if you have these stress issues, then, learn to live with it. That's it. End of story. I told you what was going on. You didn't believe me. Too bad. If you want to now engage in lack of trust, that's on you. I'm happy with what's going on. I've got no complaints. My conscience is clean. So if you want to make a thing out of it, that's your doing. You go and create it. If it wants to, that way it makes you live with your own conscience, fine. I understand that. And, the past is the past. I've moved on, You've got to make peace with yourself. Don't try and do it through me, so just spell it out a little bit. Yeah. And to say, look, I'm with you and love you and support you, despite you being full of shit sometimes and doing stupid stuff.
How about it?
Yeah.
My goodness.
But, just because you feel guilty, don't push that onto me. Deal with your own stuff. Don't push it onto me. That's the bottom line here, And we are not the same. That's it. Don't assume that I do the same shit that you do. I don't.
That's correct.
I got my own shit, that I do. It's different shit. It's not the same as you.
And I said, the only reason I don't interact with that friend is because we both agreed on it. I'm not following your
orders,
your demands, or your, that's my choice too. If trust me, if I choose to reverse that choice and I choose to speak with her or visit her, I'm not going to lie to you about it. I have every right to do that.
Right. There you go.
I do what I want.
I don't need to hide going there. If I want to go there, I'll go there.
Right. I don't want to go permission there.
Right.
If anything bad were to come of it, it would be bad on me. Oh, he always says to me,
exactly.
When you make a mistake, it only affects you. When you went to prison, it only affected you. I said, no, I never said that. I never said that. I always had a modicum of guilt for what it did to you.
Say, dude, fine. You chose to stay with me when I went to prison. That was your choice. And take responsibility for your choice. You didn't have to.
Well, you know what his biggest beef was?
Right.
That because I was on the front page of the newspaper 5 times. I was big news in the little town of Easton.
That it made him look bad. That's his biggest beef.
Because they used his last name, not my last name. He goes, the Principados all, came out of this without a scrape. The Matisse family had their name dragged through the mud. Yeah. That was his biggest beef.
If that's the stuff that's important to you, ego and status and what other people think, you're going to live a very shallow life. So, get over it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And has it really made that much of a difference in your life? No.
Well, and John Matisse, his father, was also known to tell his wife to shut up in public at a dinner table. At a dinner table with 10 people sitting there. He'd tell her to shut up.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? you're you're not as royal as you think you are.
Right,
You know,
right. You know,
everybody's
but
family
again,
has
you
their
know, you had
ugliness.
the choice to disassociate with you at the time, and he didn't.
That's true.
If you really wanted to, so hey, you know, take responsibility for your freaking decisions. You decided to stay with it, and now don't complain. You know, don't blame me for your decisions. Yes, I did stupid stuff, but you could have disassociated and moved on. That's it. You know, let me go and say I've got nothing to do with her, and that's it. You know, and saved your precious name and all the other shit. So you obviously saw some value in staying with me. So own it. That's it. You
Right.
know, now try and blame everything on me. You made decisions too. So that's it. You know, that's it. I own my shit. You own your decisions.
That's
So
right.
take responsibility. That's it. You know,
And I mean, in the same breath, I
it's
have to,
cute. You know, he's
I
been.
have
It's
to take
obviously.
my own advice, though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I stayed with him knowing that he cheated.
Exactly. Exactly. And you mention that. Say, look, bring up
I can't hear you.
from the past to you all the time. You know, I stayed with you and I try and make the best of it. And we do. I'm saying, you know, you also, you stayed with him and you try and make the best of it, despite knowing that, things are flawed. And you had a great vacation, did you not?
I did have a good vacation.
There you go. So,
I don't want it. I didn't want it soiled by that last night. I feel bad that
exactly.
I lost it.
Yeah. But so go and apologize for it. And not again say, look, I'm not saying what you did was right, but I am saying what I did, I'm not happy with, and I'm not cool, right? So this, just because I'm apologizing for my behavior doesn't mean it excuses yours, but I'm taking responsibility for my behavior, and I feel terrible
Right.
about it. And I really want to not have to repeat this. When you come up with this egregious rubbish, I shouldn't lose it. Just because
Okay.
it's egregious, absolute ridiculous nonsense does not mean I should lose it. I
Right.
should understand where it's coming from, that, you've got your issues, your guilts that you're looking to deal with, and find some way to rationalize and justify. Okay, I understand that. So, that's it. I need to apply my own awareness and understanding more so. So, when this is the thing here to take away. When stuff is ridiculous like that and absurd, don't just treat it as that. Say, how does this make sense? That allows you to do. How did it make sense? Greg feeling guilty.
Right.
Right now, that comes. Only good people feel guilty. Right.
Okay.
Right. Bad
Yeah,
people don't feel guilty. Truly
that's
bad people
true.
don't feel guilty. So the fact that he's feeling guilty means there is a good part of him that he's feeling bad about it, which is good, which is why you love him and why you stick with him, because he's not a bad person. He's a good person. Right. He doesn't necessarily know how to express that, and,
Right.
inappropriate application of goodness, but that's where you come in, and, between the two of you, you can share and figure it out. There are better ways to be good. Yeah. The same thing, your losing it was also part of your goodness, but you didn't know a different way. So that's all I'm saying. Just figure out how it makes sense.
Yeah.
And, you've got people you can talk to. At the time, you could have come on and chatted to me. I was free all day yesterday, so.
Well, I mean, this went well into the night.
Yeah.
And
Take your power pauses and, step aside.
I tried. And I tell you,
Oh,
primarily, my
yeah,
biggest beef today is that I couldn't. I
yeah.
couldn't. I
It'll
tried.
come, Cheryl. Habits die hard.
There
Habits
was
die
that
hard.
was not
Yeah,
how it was.
yeah.
You know what I mean? My choice, like,
Yeah, I know,
betrayed me.
I hear you, Cheryl. I struggled with anger most of my life, and it's a big problem. It's something that's so deep in us, that because it's stemmed by our goodness. We get upset because we want things to be good and right, and we're trying to make them good and right, and sort of force them to be good and right. So yeah. Just understand it for what it is, and we will. It gets better. It gets better. Just keep on trying. And the fact that you really feel bad, use that to say it's not worth it. The price isn't worth it. The effort is worth the rewards. You lose
Yeah,
more than you gain, much more.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like, like the fallout from it is like my thoughts are like all over. Like, I don't feel like grounded. Like Tuesday, I walked away from my Zoom and I was so grounded and I was so there. And then boom, like that, it was gone.
Yeah. And this is why, Cheryl, we focus on application and practice, and habit management, because we can have realizations and awarenesses, but we have to have that ability to apply it via repetition, via habit, via practice. And yes, practice means you get it wrong sometimes, and it's a fuck up, and that's it, but the end result of this is there's a deeper understanding. So please satisfy my Mr. A, right? Because there's still the unresolved story that hasn't finished.
What? Mr.
Yeah,
A?
you started with the last thing, the key was locked in the car. I don't know what happened on that. You see, I'm waiting in suspense here. I'm like, what happened? What happened? The storm's coming in. You're at a convenience store with other people. You phone Greg and he gives you crap.
Right.
Then what happened?
So, I know how long it takes to get from our house to where I was.
Yeah.
And when the Ring camera went on, I knew he was home picking up his key. So I thought, okay, good. He's picking up the key. He should be home. He should be here any minute, because it only takes like about 12 to 15 minutes to get from our house to this little mini mart.
All right.
45 minutes later, I'm still standing there in the rain.
Wow.
He goes, well, I went by Lidl and I stopped in to pick up some steaks. What? While I'm in a hurricane?
Yeah.
Locked outside my car.
Wow.
He says, well, I know what you were up here for anyway. And he beeped my car. And and it opened. And he goes, there, your car's open. Now go home. Greg, why are you treating me like this?
Wow.
What? Why are you doing this?
Wow.
I said, I'm going to need your key. And now I'm standing in the rain, pouring rain, while he's yelling at me sitting in his truck with the window down.
Yeah.
I said, can I please have the key? Because I'm not sure that my key fob is working. I think that's what the problem is.
Yeah.
He went like this, like he was going to throw it at me.
Wow.
And then he handed it to me.
Wow.
Got my car, went home.
Yeah.
And then I went over to, first thing I did was go over after the other little pup, all these little doggies depending on me. So I went over after the pup next door, and I actually happened to have a change of clothes over there. So I pulled off all my wet shit.
Oh, that's useful.
Yeah, it was nice. Because sometimes I spend like more than just a little time, because she's alone.
Yeah.
At a time,
Yeah,
so then I'll go over and spend like the whole day with her, and we'll go outside and screw around. So I had to change the clothes over there. Anyway, I changed my clothes, and I was able to charge my phone a little bit on the drive home. And then Greg started calling my phone because he didn't know where I was. He expected me to be here when he got home.
Yeah. Wow.
So I came over, and it just started. I mean,
manly pride. It's a terrible thing when a man's sort of pride of identity gets dented and they feel not manly. They go to ridiculous lengths and extremes to remedy that.
I think a lot of it is because he felt so dependent upon me.
Oh yeah, the whole airport incident
for his whole, survival.
Yep, and now it's to reset the balance. So for him, this whole incident was just a gift from God. Fascinating.
I love the way you look at things.
It's too fascinating. It's too fascinating. It's a crappy gift, but still, for him, it gave him that opportunity. Now, this may also benefit you too, because, that thing with the key, Greg is never one that's been violent. Yes.
No, he's thrown keys at me before, though.
Right. Well, I understand.
Many years ago, he threw a ring of keys at me. But no, he's not.
No more than that, right? But this dent in manly pride, it can push guys over the edge into becoming violent. So unless that balance is redressed, or if not violent, they can become depressive, alcoholic, go and have an affair, or all sorts of shit, right? So the fact that you had this where he, in his own mind, okay, you losing it, you giving him crap, and he thinks you did something bad, at least it balances it for him. And so now at least he's in a space of normality a little bit again. It's not the most ideal way of remedying the situation, but still, at least it's a remedy. So when you look at it in the big picture, okay, Thank you, Arikan. Thank you, Keyfob. Yeah.
Yeah.
When excess leads to excess, or excess breeds excess. So he's in an excessive psychology, and his father had that same idiotic psychology, this misogyny, this macho shit, from what Sue's told me many stories about him.
Well, I'll tell you what, how about this? He can look at it like if his inability to get home was wrapped up in me on Sunday, my ability to get home was wrapped up in him.
Exactly.
Yesterday.
So it's the balance. Exactly.
So,
Greg,
if you're feeling, maybe I could approach him that way and say, listen, if Sunday made you feel very uncomfortable because you figured you couldn't get home without me, I couldn't get home without you either yesterday.
Right. Exactly. It's not quite the same thing, but all right. Yeah. Knows it, and he knows it, and see, that's the thing.
Onto that.
Right, and that's the issue, right? It's the awful truth. And the awful truth, when guys cannot let go, they cannot rationalize it in some way, no matter which way they try to spin it, they can't let go of the actual fact that, hey, I did something stupid. I lost it. I was hopeless. I was weak. I was feeble. And they can't. And also probably all of his father's shit came back to him. His father probably said some of the stuff to him, you useless, you no good, you this shit, and all that came back on him, like as a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of a shit, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
His father was a shit. I mean, his father was horrible.
His father was not a nice man at all.
No. And, here's the problem. He's trying to emulate his father because he was, successful in some things and whatever.
Well, but, Greg thinks his dad was just a hero among men. Yeah.
Right. But he wasn't. He was a shit,
He was nasty. He was mean-spirited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was all into the superiority paradigm nonsense, and he was just a bully and a miserable crap. Now, Greg, thinking that he needs to be like his father in order to be a man, if he's not his father, he's not a man. It fucks him up. It messes him up, So he sees all of this bullying and dominance and saying, like, oh, I know, I like being mean and nasty to you. This is his idea of being a man. No. So we'll get into this in real detail when we do the superiority paradigm program.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to translate through to Greg, but at least we'll give you a deeper understanding of him. And it's hard to fix people. They can only do it themselves. We can't really fix people, but you can share stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
And we'll there's subtle ways through just sharing stuff that you just put an idea out there, and people put two and two together. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. See, I mean, for me, like when Vivian would say things to me like, "Oh, I could have been happy if it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
You took my happiness away because I wanted to be with Kenny, and you took my happiness away." And I would my lasting issue with that was, what the hell is wrong with her to say something like that, right? Yeah. Now, Greg's father, I think, really laid into him hard when he shot his first deer. Jack gutted it right there in the woods in front of him, and Greg threw up.
Yeah.
And his dad came down on him hard for being a boy.
His dad punished him for being a nice person and for not being a shit like him and his brother.
Right? And I think that wounded Greg. I think he really took that to heart, that he wasn't a real man. He wasn't a man. His dad said something to him like,
"It's more of a man for throwing up than not."
Yeah, he said, if I would have known there was a little boy in the woods with a gun, I would have taken the gun away. something like that to him.
Yeah,
Called him a
it's
child and a
horrible.
little boy.
It's absolutely horrible. So,
Yeah.
I would, if, the first chance you get, let Greg know you love him because he's not his father. You love him because he did throw up. And most women, when they get the choices, they prefer the one who throws up to the one who does the killing and the horrible shit, right? This is a myth that shitheads push to justify their shitheadness. It's not the truth or a reality. It's absolute bullshit. Yeah. Yeah. Absolute bullshit. So let him know that, you love him because he is a gentleman, a gentleman, and that's just why the word gentleman is such a powerful word. It's because not only are these men of honor, but they are gentle men.
Yeah.
And this is what women want. They don't want these fucking monsters that go around killing and ripping in. How is that good for anything? No, it's rubbish. It's bullshit pushed by the freaking crazies to try and justify their own crap and nonsense, the rapists and murderers and shit. No, we tough. Oh, no, you're not tough. You're freaking monsters. No,
Yeah.
bullshit. Right.
Yeah.
So, when you really see this from the bullshit that it is, and let him know this is where his power comes from. This is what makes him a real man, is being gentle.
Gentle.
Not being tough, being gentle. There's plenty of rapists and murderers and torturers and shitheads in the world. They aren't men. They're rubbish.
Right.
Yeah, they're monsters. So, yeah. What do you want to be, a monster or a man? Take your pick. Take your pick. To be human, it's you, man. There you go. Think of it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So, okay. Well,
interesting.
Yeah. We'll talk more tonight.
Powerful stuff, But again, to just come at it from your side. You're not trying to fix him. He doesn't have to do things right. You're just dealing with yourself. Hey,
That's
I
true.
apologize for my crap. Doesn't make your crap right, but I'm apologizing for my crap. End of story.
Right. And hopefully that'll clear the way for me to be on my path and back.
And let him know why you love him,
Back to
not
where
why
I
you
need
hate
to know.
him. Right.
Right.
Just because he acts hatefully doesn't mean you don't understand it. And you can, at some point say, look, I understand why you did what you did. It's okay. I mean, they're not okay, but I understand it at least, get over it.
And I'm ready to move past it. I'm ready to move past it as long as we understand each other.
Right, exactly.
And I need him to understand where I'm coming from. I apologize for my aggressiveness.
Yeah.
Because that's not how I want to be.
But we won't solve our problems if we feel guilty about something and we try to reduce that guilt by dumping it onto somebody else. And the two wrongs don't make a right.
That's right.
Right.
And I am going to give him one last chance to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
If there's anything I should know, if there's any lies anywhere, don't wait for them to sneak up behind me.
I think that's a lost cause, though, sadly. I mean, I truly think to pin it all on him coming clean and confessing, I think he's so deep in this that his self-identity is attached to not confessing. So I mean, at this point in time, yeah. Cheryl, I'm not saying give up on this idea. At some point in time, yes, but now
I don't want it to sneak up on me again. Even if he said to me, yes, I had a one night stand with Kelly Donahue, whatever.
Yeah.
I could forgive. I don't know why, but I could.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. I'm just not one of those women that are like, I'm just not that way.
Yeah. No,
whatever he was going through at that time that would make him do that to me and to himself and in his own,
messed upness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't pin your hopes on him confessing is all I'm trying to say. Just that's all I'm saying. I don't know if there's a high probability that it will occur. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you make it an either or, make or break thing, likely something's going to break,
Yeah, no, I don't mean that. I just mean I can forgive you, but don't make it sneak up on me again. Because if it does come out 5 years from now, there'll be nowhere on earth for him to hide. That'll be it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Just to be strategic in this stuff, and say, what is it that I want? and pick and choose between what you
I
want.
want
and
it
make
to
your
go
decisions.
away. I want it to go away. I don't want to be reminded that
What go away? Sorry.
his infidelity.
Oh, right.
I want it to just go away. And as long as it's still in question, it's not going to
I
go
see.
away.
Oh, I see.
I just
All
want it to go away. I can't move forward if somewhere down the road is a
Now,
sinkhole waiting for me.
Right. So now just to, I mean, knowing, Greg has a bit of timidity to him. He may just have been friendly with her and charmed and flirted. Nothing may have come of it. I'm just saying. Just be aware. He may have had all the intent in the world to try and make something happen, but I don't think he's particularly pushy in that sense there. He'd have to have some cooperation from the other side, no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
I'm just saying that it may not have actually. So be careful of when you put this out there. He may have engaged in flirtatious behavior with, but nothing may have actually come of it, which in his mind, so, well, I didn't do anything with her. Well, it doesn't mean that you didn't want to because you went upstairs. I'm just saying,
Yeah. Well, there was one other, and this comment, Sil, has never left my mind. I wish I had an eraser so I could just make it, go in and erase it. I'm talking to this Kelly Donahue because she started out as a friend of mine.
Yeah.
We're talking, and this is after Greg stopped going over there all the time. She was moving out, and Greg had stopped going over there all the time. She had a boyfriend. She was getting engaged. And we're talking about Greg, and I must have been bitching about him for something. And she said, yeah, that's Greg. She goes, sometimes I feel like I should hate him, but I don't.
Wow.
I said, what did you say? She
Wow.
went, well.
Now that could also be that, he sort of flirted and made the moves and then didn't follow through. And, women spurned and that that sticks with them, So I'm just saying.
Yeah. You went silent. Don't go silent now. I can't hear you. Stop. Come on. There it goes. Oh.
Yeah.
There you are. There you are. Okay.
All right.
What did you just say?
I'm just saying, that comment. Yeah, that comment of hers could come about because, he was flirting and he didn't follow through. And, women don't like to be spurned like that. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to say that these things aren't always as simple. Sometimes they're complicated. I'm just trying to say, be careful of assumptions. Yes, something was going on for sure, that but what exactly, this you don't. So
I don't. Yeah.
He may have been putting the moves on him and he liked it and enjoyed her charming him, but he didn't follow
that
through.
would be so Greg. That would be so Greg. And you know what? I might give him a hard pinch in a soft spot for it, but I wouldn't hate him for it because
exactly.
I mean, he's a guy.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And not only guys, women like too, when people flirt and charm, I mean, she could have done it because, hey, I'm getting my free stuff. And how, look how your next door neighbor flirted and charmed with him to get free work out of him. She may have been doing the same thing, so I'm just saying, it doesn't make you clean, but still, all right. I love you for that. Okay.
So. Whatever.
It's again, inappropriate application of goodness.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, be open to all possibilities. That's all I'm saying.
And listen, and I could have precipitated some of it by my old way of being. Yeah. I could ignore the man for 2 weeks, not say a single fucking word to him.
That must really be tough for him.
As far he was invisible, as far as I was concerned. Yeah, I didn't cook any meals. I didn't do any wash.
Wow,
nothing. He was absolutely invisible. I don't want to do. I'm not about torturing people. No.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just amazed that you guys are still together. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm amazed too.
I mean, truly, I don't mean to be mean, but it's like, wow, seriously? Yeah. I mean, especially for somebody with Greg, who, has a bit of self-confidence issues, to 2 weeks of
Yeah,
just isolation like that, that must be severely torturous to him.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It was torturous to me too. I actually had to work at it. Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to keep reminding myself I didn't like him anymore
Yeah.
in order to keep it up.
Yeah. But,
But and he's very likable when he wants to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the
Anyway.
thing, it's like, hey, we aren't perfect. Let's find a way to focus on the parts that we like, not the parts that we don't like.
Yeah.
And you work on your stuff that's not right on your own time, and I'll work on my stuff. I'm making an effort, and I'll keep making an effort. But
That's
let's at
right.
least just to focus on the parts that are good.
And I mean, and
Yeah, we've got
up until yesterday, you know what, there's been a lot of potential squabbles that have been averted because
yeah,
I'm different now, and because I not only react differently, but
yeah,
I bring
yeah,
him to a
yeah.
place where he can react differently.
Cheryl, now that's an important issue too. And I mentioned the students why I wanted Greg involved in some way or another. He's much less involved than I would prefer, but this is why. Because when somebody starts to move and learn and grow and actually change, their environment, the people around them, will very often start to literally pull them back down again. They don't want them to move up and away. Why? Because by comparison, it makes them all look like crap, right? And if Greg sees you moving, you are actually changing. He fears losing you if you become a better person. Because now, if you're a good and better person, you get your shot sorted out. What the hell do you want to do with him?
Yeah.
Right? So his insecurity, which he has profound insecurity. That's why, despite your 2 weeks of silent treatment, he's still with you, and shit like this, because he doesn't feel like he can get anything else and go anywhere else. He's dependent on you, and he knows this. So there's a great fear in you improving, but let him know that your changes just make you love him more, not less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Your capability to love is based on your ability to perspective shift, to focus on what matters, and to shift your perception and deeper understanding, and to see the deeper goodness and to see the bigger picture. And you do know that he's a good person. Despite his crap and nonsense, he's a good person, same as you.
yeah.
So, and that's why you love him, because he's a good person, not because of the crap and nonsense, or the lack of crap and nonsense. That's not why you love him.
Right. Right.
Doesn't mean that he can do any shit that he likes either. That's no good either.
That's right. That's right. I mean, he can't, consistently
Right. I
disrespect
mean, he's
our
exactly.
vows to each other. That's one of them.
Exactly.
You just don't get to lower your knickers whenever you want to. That's a vow.
Right.
So,
Right. Again, there is a limit to how much you will forgive. Let him know
that
that
is
too.
correct. That's correct.
Not going to be like, just because I've done it a few times doesn't mean I'm going to do it forever. I'm not a stupid
Right.
fool either.
I'm not a doormat. Yeah, no. No.
Exactly. So, but this is important to be aware of. So for him, all of yesterday was an opportunity. Based on not just on the airport incident, but also on you actually changing to limit that and restrict it and bring it back down where you're the same as him, and it's more secure and
Yeah.
safe. Because you moving, you growing, you changing is a big threat to him.
Well, that was extremely temporary last night, and that's not.
I will let him
That's
know. Let him
Yeah,
know.
I
Say,
am going to
hey,
let him know. When I
this isn't
apologize
me.
for my reaction, he needs to know that's
Yeah.
not who I am anymore. And going forward, I don't
Yeah.
accept that.
And also,
I don't accept that behavior in me.
exactly. And say to him, look, I refuse to be Vivian. Yesterday, Vivian came out. Sorry, I refuse to be Vivian.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Vivian, and I refuse. Now, just because I have some of Vivian's DNA in me and it comes out every now and then like this, that doesn't mean that, I'm blaming it all on her. It's me, but I refuse. I'm not going to go down that path, which is now by implication, him not going down the path of being his father. And you can say something like, you don't say about the father, but say, we do not have to be our parents.
That's right.
You know, our parents, just because our parents doesn't necessarily mean we have to be them. You don't have to say, oh, sometimes they just shit. You know, he knows that how you feel about Vivian, but he can make the connection, you know, subtly with his father.
Okay.
We don't have to be our parents. We can choose to be different.
Okay.
What our parents are was perhaps, you know, right for them, but it wasn't right for me, for sure.
Right.
I choose different. And this is our task, you know, to choose our own lives, not to be our parents. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very powerful, you know. So when we look at this bigger picture, there's a lot more to all of this, right?
Yeah, there's
There
always
always
more.
is, Cheryl. There always is. You know, all this shit always makes sense in some magical way. We just have to find that, right?
Right.
And I mean, I do realize this is a skill that I have, a talent, but I've worked very hard at it. You know, all my life, I worked hard at seeing
Right.
how things
Right.
make sense
I
in
know
the bigger
sometimes I
picture.
have to realize that I've only been in
Exactly.
the course of transition
Exactly.
for what,
Yeah.
5 months
Months.
now? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
So, exactly. So chill out, you know, and relax. This is a slow thing. We're in this for the long haul, you know, because
yeah.
if you rush it, you get that temporary boost. You know, you get that sugar high, which doesn't last.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, band-aid fixes, because you can have all the realizations in the world, but they don't stick necessarily. It comes through practice, repetition, application, and that deeper understanding to make this a habit. And that takes time. It takes time. And we're dealing with a lot of different stuff. You
Okay.
know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we've got a lot more to come still. So, hey, you know, just be patient. Trust yourself, right? Trust yourself. Yeah. Very cool, Cheryl. Very, 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 very cool stuff. Very cool. Very cool.
And
Very
isn't it
cool.
something?
Yeah.
Here's the attunement and the connectivity that module 3, session 2, number 9 was my first slide I did 3 days ago. And my dictionary of power term was inappropriate ego.
There you go.
Falling
Exactly.
back on emotions as permission to lead
Yeah.
with the ego instead of applying tools of impeccability.
Yep. And that's the thing too. See, as we grow and we develop and we really start to expand, what happens to the ego? It starts to get less and less and less and less and less, right? And at some point it says, oh my fuck, I'm going to be eliminated. I'm going to be wiped out. And it starts to really feel threatened. And then it finds a way to cause crap to bring it back into existence. That's exactly, you know, you're losing it. That's exactly where that is, right? The ego being so threatened about being eliminated that it causes shit to justify its existence.
What is ego? How do we
That's a
define
good
it?
question. That's a very good question. So there's many. I'll actually let you define it rather than me saying. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I put 2 terms in my dictionary of power: inappropriate ego and appropriate ego.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Ego is a tool. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Oh,
Ego
well,
is a tool.
I said, is ego, my definition starts with a question.
Right. So let's just go back 1 second, right? You had 2 definitions of ego, right? You said
Yes, inappropriate and appropriate.
Right. So when we take that quote, ego is a tool, it applies to both of those, right?
Right.
One little tongue in cheek, but another one is it's a powerful tool, right?
Yeah.
So when we see this, like everything, you know, everything is a tool. It's about appropriateness, in other words.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I had, is ego ever appropriate? Well, it exists in all of us and must be recognized, but not given power to make inappropriate choices.
Exactly.
We can recognize our ego to provide confidence in our intent to goodness.
Yes. And a sense of self-worth, right?
Right.
In other words, when I say I am not a doormat, that's my ego, the positive ego saying I have worth. Now, the problem is that ego says I have worth. Oh, I'm the best thing ever. And, you know, I'm just God. No. So it's about So ego doesn't have any of, it can run away with itself. So ego
Right.
needs to be balanced, right?
Right.
It is positive, but too much of it. And this is the thing, when we understand that more is not always better,
Mm.
right? That's a belief that ego gets lost up in, and it says more is better. So when he says, "Well, I have self-worth," that's a good thing. Oh, I'm going to add to that and go more and more and more, and it runs away with it, and it gets excessive, and then it gets stupid, right? So
Yeah.
I actually got a post today where I said, talk about more being better. When it comes to awareness, more is better. But I said not always. Just take butter, for instance.
Just take butter.
Yeah. Is more always better when it comes to butter? No, I know it's a stupid example, but it really makes you remember it, right? That's why I like examples like that. You say, more is always better. No, when it comes to butter, hell no, it's not always better, right? I mean, I love butter. Butter's great, but, too much butter, it's nauseating. It makes you ill, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do know of a guy who eats sticks of butter. The sticks of butter?
Yeah.
He eats them like candy bars.
Mm.
He's a very
My
unusual
sister
guy.
used to eat a spoonful of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy eats, his diet is soda, chips, and sticks of butter and stuff like that. He's got this most ridiculous diet. And he was on American Idol or one of those things, and he won it. He's the guy who swallows stuff and then brings it up, like swallows light bulbs and sugar, and he coughs it back up again. That guy, he's the guy who eats sticks of butter.
Oh my goodness.
He was on one day. They
So
said,
he's not all that unhealthy.
No. I mean, it works for him. So who the hell knows what's going on inside there,
Yikes.
I mean, maybe the sticks of butter lubricates the whole thing and makes it work.
I don't
But
know.
what fascinated me is that
They always say your body lets you know what you need.
Yeah. But what fascinated me is that the sugar, that he swallowed the sugar, or however he took the sugar, and was able to bring it, and it came out dry. That's what fascinated me.
Wow.
So maybe he's got some extra stomach or something, some, who knows, or an extra lung that he doesn't use as a lung, some space that's dry. That to me was too fantastic. When you look at this guy, it's quite amazing.
I wonder how you discover that you have that talent.
That's the other thing. Exactly. Did he accidentally?
How do you come about that? You know what I mean? Some of these things that people do, I wonder, like, of its origin. Like, at what point did you say, you know what? I think I'm going to try to do this.
Yeah.
This is a good thing.
I agree. Likely accident, I would assume,
I guess.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Anyway, but, this more, when it comes to ego, we have to be very careful to understand that, an ego is, to me, the magic of ego being this tool where too much of it is no good. Excessive ego is horrible.
Right.
Like in so many things, when you've got too much of it, it's bad. But we need the discernment. Yes, when it comes to awareness, I don't think you can have too much awareness. Maybe, I don't know. But ego particularly forces us to understand the virtue and the necessity and the absolute magic sacredness of appropriateness.
Okay.
Right? It's appropriate. Now, there may be some instances where you've got to be, bombastic and be, have ego run away with itself, where you've got to dominate everything. Otherwise, if you're not taking over, you're going to end up in the cooking pot with the savages, potentially. You know what I mean? In those cases, that excessive ego probably saved those people because they acted so superior that, they must be superior. They couldn't handle. So I'm just saying that appropriateness is always the key, right? That's it. When it comes to tool using, it's all about appropriateness. So ego is a constant reminder of the necessity for appropriateness.
Right.
So when we look at it in that way, it's very cool, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I used to equate appropriateness with balance, but it isn't. It's not, because appropriateness doesn't always balance out.
Correct. But it is kind of a balance.
It is a balance. Yeah.
It is, but it's capital B balance, which means that, look, when you've got like a seesaw or teeter-totter, right? Or that kind of thing. If you've got, I don't know, Humpty Dumpty on one side and you've got Jack Sprat on the other side, how do you balance it?
Right.
Jack Sprat was
so there are times that the appropriateness needs to shift.
you can balance it, right? You can leave Humpty Dumpty on the one side and Jack Sprat on the other side, but then you've got to move the balance point, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that Humpty
Yeah.
Dumpty sits on the short end and Jack Sprat sits on the long end, and then it balances. And that's appropriateness, you see?
Yeah.
So it's a capital B balance. Sometimes you can't move, you can't, put 6 Jack Sprats on there, but you can change the fulcrum point. Or what you could do is have Humpty Dumpty. We did this as kids. Humpty Dumpty sits on the other side of the handle, right? He sits in front of the handle. He
Okay.
moves closer to the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right?
it's about shifting.
It's about shifting, right? It's
Yeah.
about appropriateness, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
That's very interesting. You know the little rhyme with Jack Sprat, right?
I kind of do, but
Sprat could eat
I
no
couldn't.
fat,
I couldn't
wife could
repeat
eat
it
no
for you.
lean. Right.
What?
It was Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean.
No lean.
And
Yeah.
between the two of them, between the two of them, they licked the platter clean. There you go. Anyway, the image always was Jack Sprat, this little tiny skinny guy next to this
Why
huge
do
wife.
I find that absolutely hilarious? Right.
Me too. That's why it sticks in my mind. It's just too hilarious. Exactly. But it was also for me. It was, and at the time when I first heard it, I mean, way back when, I'm a tiny little kid now, right? And these were your nursery rhymes. I always thought nursery rhymes were absolutely ridiculous. But it was for me an indication at the time. I said, oh, this is making the little timid, wimpy guy okay. It's saying there's a balance, there's an appropriate, right? That was the thing, in the image there, you've got this powerful wife, wimpy guy, and saying, hey, it's legitimizing this, it's making it okay, so that you don't think that Jack Sprat is a wimp and it's inappropriate. There's balance, in other words, it balances.
Right.
So I thought that was very cool in the deeper meaning of the nursery. It said, oh, this is making people okay with those guys and doesn't make them pariahs, doesn't make them outcasts in society.
Gotcha.
The things that go through kids' minds.
Yeah.
Well, at least this alien mind, I might not have put it in those words, but I thought that, well, that's
I love it.
Yeah.
Am
I right? Because if you think of it that way, it's making you accept the Jack Sprats in the world around you, and they are out there, But now it's saying, well, there's a balance. They provide something for each other, and you don't out him, make him an outcast. I thought that was very, very cool. Now, I didn't think that people wrote the nursery rhyme for that reason necessarily, but I saw the consequence of it. Not all of the nursery stories or, I thought were good. Jack and the Beanstalk, I was horrified. I thought this was the worst story ever. I'm like, seriously, mother? Okay, your son is an asshole and a stupid fool in the first place. Okay, but he's a kid. All right, I can see he bought into story. But now, you're so poor that you've got to sell your cow. He comes home with beans, and what do? You throw them out the window. I mean, seriously, woman, do you now not deserve a great big bloody smack? It's like wasteful, right? In your moment of anger, you don't even save the beans and freaking or cook them or plant them. No, you throw them away. It's like, really? You are that wasteful? That stopped me at the story right there. I'm like, no, this is just crap, And then furthermore, Jack climbs up the beanstalk and he discovers this wonderful wall. What does he do? He seduces and corrupts the wife of the giant. What did the giant do? He was just living happily up there. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a horrible guy. He was just a giant. But, no, he steals all of his stuff and seduces the wife and everything, turns the wife against the giant. What did the giant do? Nothing except be a giant. I thought it was the most horrible story of prejudice and of assumption. This is terrible. The poor giant, what the hell did he do? And then Jack kills the giant eventually. It's like, come on, the giant was just coming to get his stolen stuff back. Yeah. So, messed up logic and assumption and, superiority and all this, no, I mean, Jack justified his greed and stealing stuff because, well, the giant is a giant. Well, he's bad. No, he wasn't bad. Fascinating. And it doesn't even say in the story that the giant is bad. It was just the giant. It's just assumed that he was bad. What terrible prejudice. Terrible. Anyway, that was my take on the story. I never liked that story.
Okay.
A lot of the kiddie story I thought were just absolutely ridiculously absurd,
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I got read very few of them. I don't ever actually, I read those stories. I acquired them elsewhere. I don't have one single memory of my parents reading me stories, bedtime stories, nursery stories.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't
luckily.
either.
Luckily, I don't have any memories of them hugging me either. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with them. I stayed as far away as I possibly could.
My father used to do this thing, and it's the one thing I think I miss the most. Whenever he would walk by me, if I was sitting at the table doing my homework, if I was watching TV, he would take his hand and he'd go like this on my cheek.
Wow.
And I just miss that so much. And when he
Oh,
was, this is sad, but it's not. It's beautiful. When he was dying, I was at his bedside and I picked up his hand and I rubbed it on my cheek. So I would
oh,
like always remember that, you know?
oh, good,
Yeah.
Cheryl. Oh, good. You got a positive memory. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I have a few positive memories, but I have to kind of work at
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Eh,
Well,
they weren't horrible people. They were just self-important yuppies, all involved in ego and status and bullshit like that.
yeah.
But my mother could be miserable in that she always would find stuff for you to do, just spreading her unhappiness onto you.
Yeah.
In that
Yeah.
sense. But when you were away from her, okay, she wasn't mean or nasty or whatever. She tried to be a mother, it was her stupid idea of this is what a mother's supposed to do. She was caught up in supposed to. And same with my father. They weren't stupid people, they're intelligent people, but that doesn't make them silly. Not silly. You can be intelligent and silly at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of my first understandings with them. You can be intelligent and silly at the same time.
Hmm.
Very useful understanding. Yeah. I mean, I remember my father, this was preschool. So our house was number 8 on the street, right? And our phone number was also 8. Yeah, believe it or not, right? It was just when phones first started to come in, and before it was the party lines. I don't know if you ever remember party lines, right?
I mean, I've seen them in movies, but I didn't
Yeah,
experience
okay.
them.
So this was way before dial telephones. So, and even then, you didn't have a number. You just picked up the phone. You got to operator and say, hey, I want to speak to George, and she connects you to George. Now there are 10 people on that line, and it will ring, and then George, his ring would be 2 shorts and a long. Okay, George picks up. But anybody else can pick up and listen in, and they would. You'd hear the little clicks, So of course, there's lots of gossip there. But later on, then they started to get a little bit more sophisticated, and you got your own individual line instead of just one line for many people, and then you got a number, right? So to have a single-digit phone number, you can only get that if there are very few people that have numbers, right? So this was something special. But my father, being the town doctor, is basically one step below God. That's it. You got God, and then you got the town doctor, because he's
Mhm.
the man, right? I mean, your life literally depends on him. And it is in a district where, for like 100 miles around, he was the only doctor. So he was God. And that's why he chose that, because he's a total megalomaniac. At any rate, the address of his surgery was number 88.
Oh
And the
wow.
phone number of the surgery later became 88. And
Oh my.
then the cars, he got the license plates to also be like 088 or 88 something, So there were 2 cars, a Ford Fairlane and a Valiant, right? Big old cars. Anyway, so their numbers had those 8s in. And he shared this with us. And he was so proud of this, right? How cool it was. He's telling us, look, the number plates, the phone numbers, the street, everything, all these things. His point was that I could get this done. He didn't say it directly, but this was what the thing that he was proud of. I have the power and the juice to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, yeah, it's very cool. But, I mean, it's cool for me and my kids, my friends, maybe me and my brother as kids. But you as an adult, the coolness kind of goes away quite a lot. The fact that you take so much pride in this, and for the reason that you take pride in it, your ability and status to force your will on, subverting things to get what you want. I thought, no, look, that's not cool, So he kind of blew it, and he didn't know that he blown it, It's nothing out. It's kind of cool, like a fun thing, I
Yes.
mean, all right, I get it. It's nice for people to remember there was a lot of usefulness, but he's taking the pride in it. And, from his status and power point of view, that blew the whole deal. In other words, there was because he had lots of logic and reason, like, okay, it's easy to remember. People can call him anytime, from a business point of view, all this was cool. But, it's the ego went too far,
Yeah.
He did lots of stupid things, so I'll tell you another story. I've got it written up in the young man's story. I go into it in real close detail. So we my brother is 4 years older than me, and my sister 5 years older. So there's not an evenness in things when it comes to family. And then at that time, I had a sister that's a bit more, like a year and a couple of months younger than me. So she was the baby. So I basically got screwed in everything, because my sister is the oldest, then the brother. So she gets preference because she's the oldest son. My brother gets, special treatment because he's the oldest son. Then there's this big gap. And then, well, the baby, because she's the baby. So like bath time, I was always last when it came to bath time.
Oh, no.
I mean, I had lukewarm water.
It's awful.
Yeah. So, but I never complained, ever. Not about anything. Never, ever complained. Anyway, I was just thinking about this, that, just, I don't know how come, but anyway, it's like, hey, it's what it is. I'm not, I'm lucky to have what I have. That was sort of not, I felt lucky, but it's not up to me to decide. Whatever I get, it's their choice. And, I just got to take what I get. It's not really have a choice to. But anyway, so now I don't remember my sister getting pocket money, but I remember specifically my brother was starting to get pocket money. But now, well, if he's getting pocket money, how come I'm not getting pocket money? I didn't say that, but it's in their brains. So even though the time period is there now, I'm getting pocket money much younger than the time that my brother gets pocket money, right? Because you sort of the logic of it, you can't give one and not give the other. But in my father's stupid mindset now, he can't give us equal pocket money. Well, because I'm not at the same age as my brother. Now, I don't know if with most BMNs, they are ridiculously obsessed when it comes to money, right? They're very, they spend like crazy on themselves, but spend on somebody else, hell no, right? This just does not work in their brain. They have to have some really good reason to spend it on somebody other than them. They have to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gives my brother pocket money, whatever the hell he gives my brother, and now he's got to give me pocket money. So he calls me in, he makes a whole big, well, I think you're old enough to get pocket money. I gives me the whole self-important speech. Yeah, all right, just get on with it, dude. Seriously, he gives me, guess how much?
I don't know.
What do you guess a starting pocket money would be for a child? And I'm probably
$1.
Okay. Well, he gave me a cent, 1 cent.
1 penny.
1 penny, exactly. We call them cents over there, right?
Okay.
Not that he had much sense, so 1 penny. I'm like, okay, thank you. I didn't share my disappointment and my disgust at the absolute absurdity of this, right?
Yeah.
In his mind, I knew when he gave it to me, in his mind, he thought because I'm a little stupid child, I will think this is the biggest thing ever, right? That was his logic, right? And I'm just like, dude, for you to give me 1 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, make no difference to you. It's compared to the dollars and stuff, real money. I had an appreciation of real money. I knew it was an insignificant amount. I said, what the fuck am I going to do with 1 cent? I could buy 2 Star toffees. That's what I could do. I knew the exact value of a 1 cent.
Oh my
So
God.
I went outside and I really thought about this, right? Now, look at the environment. You got to understand, right? If you do stuff that goes against your parents, the result is a physical hiding. Okay. I mean, they were very much in evidence there. So, but I really thought about this and I said, this is so stupid. What am I going to do? And I thought it through and I was really disgusted at the idiocy of it. And the fact that he didn't understand where I was coming from. He was so locked in his own bubble of inappropriateness and ridiculousness and all. I wrote it all out. But at the end of the day, I threw away that cent. I threw away that penny, right? I threw it out into the dirt. And I knew I knew that this could get me into real serious trouble. Like if he'd asked me what did I spend, he didn't take much interest in the kids, but if he'd asked me, I would have had to say I threw it away, and that would probably get me into trouble. But I took the chance because it was my protest against it.
Yeah. So did he continue to give you pennies?
Example of intelligence. Say again.
Did he continue to give you pennies?
For a little while, and then I think in some way I must have communicated the absurdity of it, because then he raised it up to like 5 cents or whatever, and then it became a little more. It still wasn't very much, but okay, I went and spent it on sweets, which I really like sweets. All my life I ate a lot of sweets always.
Oh, wow.
Skinny, but I ate a lot of sweets. So because there's nothing else you can do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And saving it up, the absurdity of saving up a penny. I had enough sense to say, okay, in a year, I'm going to have 52 freaking pennies. I can still do bugger all with 52 pennies. I mean, it's just the absurdity of it is in his mind, I'm teaching you the value of money. No, listen, yes, you're teaching me that a cent is freaking worthless, and that you're giving me worthless shit because you're a worthless shit,
Well, here's a little story on my end of it. I remember my first allowance. That's what they called it. Get your allowance.
We call it pocket money. Same thing.
Okay, we called it allowance. I got a dollar bill from my dad, and I would have him every Friday take me down to the bank, and I would exchange it for a silver dollar because I just thought they were pretty.
Wow, there you go. I hope you saved
I saved all these silver dollars, and I had a piggy bank full of silver dollars.
Now that actually, if you'd saved it till today, it would probably be worth a hell of a lot more than.
Well, I did save it.
Oh, good for you.
And then my sister stole it.
Oh.
And she spent it on drugs.
Oh, fuck. God damn it. Really.
I had that big piggy bank because once the dollars stopped, I think I probably did it. I might have had like 52 of them every week for about a year or so. I had like 50
and in all likelihood, she spent it for the dollar value, not for the silver value.
Yeah, no, at that point, it was a dollar. Silver dollar was a silver dollar, and it was made of silver back in 1965. But I mean, what's the value
of still a dollar, the weight of that silver?
No, I think a silver dollar that's all silver at this point, I think is worth about $20.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I'm saying she likely spent it for the dollar value, not for the silver value.
Oh, yeah. And I don't even know when it happened because I had that up on a shelf and then the one day I went for it and it was empty and I was like heartbroken.
I feel that, stuff like that at some point in time, we are going to reap the return on that investment. Not directly, but indirectly. I really feel, I really, really, really believe that because I won the lottery once, but I didn't collect. Did I tell you the story?
No. You won the lottery and you didn't pick up the money?
Yeah. All right. So we come to this country and we can bring nothing with us, right? Pretty much what you can put in your bags. They had very strict exchange controls. Not that we had much to bring, but still, so you come with nothing, right? And we came, we're coming on a spiritual quest and adventure. So, okay, it doesn't matter. So when we get here, we're staying in like a residential hotel. We're living off the credit card and, running it over. But all right, what can you do? And looking for things to do, ways to do. But we got no papers. We got nothing. And we didn't really understand how, doing stuff without papers works the way I understand it today. So nothing is happening, nothing is working, we're going nowhere, and we're just facing basically, a screw up, right? So we come to the decision that, hey, you know what, we've tried all the stuff, and I researched all different things, ways to, like you see stuff in the paper or whatever, ads on TV, make money without money, all investment stuff, no money down needed and all this, but all of them require you to have credit or at least have paperwork, right? So anyway, so I researched all right, well, now what are we going to do? We decided, well, we'll just have to win the lottery. Now, we had much juice and power in that time, and we could really make stuff happen just through intent. So at that time, for us to say that, it was simply an obvious thing, that, okay, we've tried everything else. This is our last resort, and that was it. All right. So, and we were so assured of the rightness of it and the appropriateness. We never took it for granted that we're taking a long shot. No, it was just, we knew that, hey, now that we've made this intent under those conditions, this was a reality that would happen. That was it. There was no question, none whatsoever, because we'd done similar things, not necessarily win the lottery, but set an intent and then had that intent materialize. Now, and to set an intent like that, you can't just do it because you want to. It's force of circumstance that pushes that, right? So there's a moreness to it. You can't just do it of your own free will. It kind of happens. Well, that was a circumstance. That was a thing. It was right. It was appropriate. Okay. So we had no question, no doubts, none whatsoever, and it just was taken for granted. This would happen. Okay, so it was one of those big mega million, multi-million things, and there was quite a time lag between it. So we wait and we wait and we wait, and finally the night comes on the TV, and come on the TV, and okay, take out the ticket, and I'm sitting there, okay, they put the first number, check, first number, yes. Bring up the second number, check, yes. Second number, yes. Bring up the third number, check, yes. And we're like, well, okay, we're like, no, Bring up the fourth number, check, yes. Bring up the fifth number, check, yes. Bring up the sixth number, check, yes. Oh, yay. And then I said, well, wait a second. There's a bonus number, seventh number. Oh, we didn't know. It's one of those multi-mega thing, right? Bring up the seventh number, doesn't match. Fuck. Wow, we were devastated. We were absolutely devastated. We were so sure that we would win, at least for me too. That was what fucked me up. That really made a big difference.
But you did win, didn't you?
That wait, exactly. Wait now, right. So I'm devastated. I was so sure we'd won, and when the sixth, the bonus number, I never factored the bonus number in. Just that was six numbers. That was what I understand. The lottery, right? You want to win the lottery, you got to match the six numbers, right? Suddenly it's this bonus number. It wasn't factored in. So we didn't get, and this fucked me up, right? And I was so depressed. I was like, man. Now, we don't have a lottery in South Africa. That doesn't exist. It's illegal over there. Does it say on the ticket anywhere that you will something if you have a three number? It doesn't. You know that you get something out of this, but go and buy a lottery ticket. Coming from my perspective, right? There's nothing in the convenience store that says if you match three numbers, you get a payout. It doesn't say so on the ticket either.
Wow.
So
oh my God.
So exactly. So, I saved that lottery ticket. I kept it in my wallet. I had this magical wallet with all sorts of magical stuff in it, like a little miniature deck of cards and, philosophy stuff and all wonderful stuff, fishing hooks and safety pins, all sorts of magical stuff. Well, very wonderful wallet. Anyway, I saved that for years. So years go by. Let's see. About 5 or 6 years, 7 years, maybe something like that, maybe more. And already by that time, we have the stores and everything. So I'm taking newspaper and for packaging for a customer that I got to ship out, right? And in the newspaper, I see all these numbers, like page after page, 2-3 pages of this number. What the fuck's going on here? Oh, look. Oh, these are unclaimed lottery numbers. Wow, holy fuck. There can't be surely that many people, that win the lottery that don't, it didn't make sense to me right away. The implication, right? I'm seeing a page full. I mean, that's, at one a week, this is thousands of numbers.
There's too many. There's too many
people who forgot to claim, it didn't make any sense. So I was like, what the hell's going on here now? Okay, there's that many lotteries over the country, but no, this was just like in California, right? So then I started to read, and then I clicked, fuck, you know what? If you get three numbers, you get a payout. I had no idea. And then I went back to my wallet, but between the time of seeing that, I cleared out my wallet. I kept that for so long, and I said, it's like, I don't hang on to the shit. So I had thrown that out. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's something else.
But
you have any idea how much you would have won?
Oh, at a minimum, even as a shared, a number, because it was multi-millions. Like, I don't know, it was like 100 million for the jackpot. So I would assume at least 1 million, at least.
Oh my
At
God.
least. I mean, at the very least, 100,000, which would have been way more than enough to get us started and going and doing stuff. However, Cheryl, right? So as a result of that, we ended up, doing all sorts of magical and wonderful stuff and having absolute fantastic adventures, and which we would not have had otherwise, right? So it changed things quite fundamentally. And again, us starting from zero, we did, we ended up living on the streets for a while, which was a fantastic experience. People say, "Oh, shame, you poor thing." Fuck that! Don't come with that shit. To me, that was one of the best times I've ever had. It was a really fantastic experience, but there was more to it, right? I mean, this was a very profound experience. Besides just having fun, when I grew up, the worst thing ever. If you don't do your homework, or you'll end up on the streets. That was it, or whatever, mind your manners or you'll end up on the streets. That was the big threat of everything. That was the exact words as well. You would end up on the street. This was the worst and most terrible thing imaginable, right? That was it. I don't know if you had that when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, that was the issue. That was the big thing, right? Yeah. To shame you and threaten you and stress you into it. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with the psychology that the absolute worst possible thing was to end up on the street. Well, I did end up on the street, and it was the most fantastic thing ever, right? Because, I had a blast doing it, but it was an opportunity for me. There was a deepness to it, right? The gift, the great big capital G gift. When I ended up on the street, I wasn't just surviving. It was an opportunity for me to implement and apply my pre-existing psychologies, strategies, and philosophies, right? So, for instance, the first thing that we did, it's a long story, but we ended up in Santa Monica. We were chatting. Okay, here we go. The first thing we realized this is where we're going to be, and we're going to be on the street. I looked out, find a source of power and authority which I could align myself with, which would give me protection. Right? That was my first act that I did. And I did that. I found 2 other homeless people. The guy was an ex-Special Forces Green Beret. His name was Pineapple, by the way. Say, hey, you know what? This guy, nobody's going to come and mess with him, or at least not many. So I'll make friends with them and hang out with them, and I'll be safe. And that's exactly, what happened. So, but my point is that this was a pre-existing understanding of a strategy that, this is a logical thing to do in situations like that where it's unknown to you, you don't know what's going on, there's risk. Find some source of safety and power that you can ally yourself with, and then from there get to know the lay of the land. And they taught us everything about being on the street. It was really cool. So then once we knew what was going on, we could go and do our own thing. It was very cool. So my point is, that's just one example. I got many examples of where I got to apply the philosophy that I had so assiduously developed, to prove to myself that the stuff isn't just ideas in my head. No, they work, they're real, they're value. I mean, we ended up sleeping on a king-size bed, Kathy and Pineapple on another king-size bed, and there was another guy who hung out with us, Jim. He slept on a nice big full-length sofa. Yeah. In other words, we had like the best of it in terms of like the ultimate for the homeless experience. Right. This stuff was behind a furniture store, which they, demo sample stuff, which they threw out, was just there by the garbage, by the dumpster. Right? It was fascinating. So I said, look, we'll store it very neatly behind the dumpster. And what we'll do, it was like sort of behind the store. The store was on the other side of the road. We came in on the other, the back end of it. And there was a big parking lot across the way. I said, this is ideal. Actually, I started off with an intent. We were sleeping just on freaking cardboard behind Sears. I said, fuck no, man, this is crap. We're going to find a better way to do this. So I set my intent, right? That we're going to find a better, and we walk and here we come. Absolutely. And I set my criteria. I said, I want a place that's more comfortable and a place that's safer, because where you can see people coming, and this was the ideal place. So I said, look, let's make it worthwhile for these people. We kept their yard clean, we kept it safe, and we let, so it was worth it for them. But then, Pineapple being a hothead and being a freaking, he was on crack at the time, which is very interesting. They would fiend for the crack, but they would absolutely make every effort to not let us be aware that they were on crack, to protect us. Isn't
Mm,
that kind of amazing?
mm, mm.
They like would hide it, you know. Yeah, that's yeah, that's fascinating. So they would go off in the nighttime and like do shit. So he got into an argument with a guy with a gun, and then the guy knew where we were, so we had to leave. So he fucked
Mm,
the whole thing up. But of course, it's again the universe. You Yes, it was an ideal situation relatively. It's not ideal in the absolute. So then things changed, and we were there for a little while. And the end of that is that the social worker at the social work center where we went in the mornings, they give you food and clothing, and it's another long story. He ended up sending us to go and stay with his mother up on the border of Oregon and Washington State for a while, and then from there, we met the guy hitchhiking, and a long story. But anyway, it all worked out magically. So yeah, it's just a long magical story, and this
yeah.
is the point. It's about proof of concept, right?
Okay.
So I'm bringing this all back, right? So all of the stories that followed were about, at least for me, putting in and implementing the philosophy that I had cultivated and built up all my life before then, without really knowing how much of a cohesive, definitive philosophy it was that I had put together, because I read everything and looked together, but still in all of that, I was putting together my own shit. So, so now I got to apply it in all of these various things to say, look, this isn't just an idea, like some other guy, they write a thing on philosophy and you say, but dude, how do I know this stuff works? And the guy says, well, it makes sense. That's not enough, at least not for me, right? Just because it makes sense is not enough. I want to know it's made sense because I've tested it and proved it. And
Mhm.
that was all of the adventures that came about after not winning the lottery, all gave me that opportunity to prove it. Had I won the lottery, it would have been theoretical.
Hmm. Wow, that's true. That's
See?
true.
So,
Yeah.
and besides which, I mean, for me especially, it's very important because I suffer from excessive modesty and humility.
Mm.
So I would never, ever, ever, I didn't even at the time, with wave impeccability, it was never a thought of something that I would assume that I'm going to share something with others. No, or teach people. I still don't think of teaching, right? I would never have been able to do this in a million years without having the actual experience to back it up,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So this was important. And later when I got to play golf, it was the same thing. I got to play really good golf, to be like a scratch golfer, in a relatively short space of time. But it was proof that I can, that I'm not just full of bullshit. I can do something unusual and extraordinary and apply, because I applied all of my philosophy to learning and growing and implementing and doing something for real. Now, the magic of golf with the handicap system is that you can compare yourself to essentially the whole world, to a very large sample size, right? It's not just like I was a really good sailor when I was a kid, a national champion, but it was a very small pool, and I knew I was a little fish in a very tiny pond, and it meant absolutely bugger all. And I didn't take my accomplishments as being something that was truly true. Whereas the
Mhm.
golf is a real accomplishment. So it's self-proof is very important. So all of what followed as a result of not winning the lottery was the opportunity to self-prove, implement, apply, test, and all of it, all of it. I mean, later on, like after that, when we got out of uh, the woman's farm that we were on, a guy gave us a lift, Mickey, and he just come from being with his Guru Dev, we called him, and he was all full of the joys of I'm spiritual and I'm wonderful, and he tried to share stuff with him. I tried to share my philosophy. I gave him something on paper which I carried around with me. He took one look at it and he was overwhelmed, and he gave it right back to him. It's like, but anyway, he tried to think that he could teach us whatever was going on. All right, never mind. So he invited us to come and stay with him in Chicago. Okay, free room and board, and that's cool because I guess his devotees or his pupils or whatever. Not that he had anything valuable to really teach, but still. So he was in the camera business and he went to camera shows and that. So okay, we just started helping him. I'd load the van for him, and then all right, well, come with, and I'd unload the van for him. That's free labor. But then through that, it's a long story. I'll just shortcut it. I started doing stuff. I took a piece on consignment, and because I didn't know if he wanted it or not, because he would buy stuff, but he wasn't there at the time. I was manning the table. So I said, look, I'll take it on consignment. I asked him, I said, is this okay if I take it on consignment and sell it? So I did. And from that little bit of money, I started to invest in stuff, and I built a business. And a year later, we had a business with, like, we would drive around with $100,000 worth of inventory in our van.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just applying the logic, so.
Yeah, step by step, right?
And then all sorts of wonderful things happened, and we had to start all over again, and we did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to invest in we bought a motorhome. We got out of that business because it was dying because of exchange rates. Long story. So we thought, and it was a lot of work. I mean, the driving, I would drive, every weekend I would drive to different cities, and it was 8, 10, 12-hour drives. And then, it was just horrible, So it wasn't sustainable in the longer term. But nonetheless, so we looked to invest in vending machines. And we got these vending machines that don't need electricity. We thought, okay, this is a bit more eco-friendly, all this. But then they were we didn't know, and people would steal from them. They were very easy to steal from.
Wow.
I never, and we would put them in businesses, like I remember the one place was, like a Jiffy Lube or something like that. You would think the average employee wouldn't, but no, they all just stole like crazy. Like, wow, that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so the investment went to shit, in other words.
Yeah.
So we had to start again. And, we had $100 this time that we started with. We invested it into costume jewelry, and we could buy a lot of costume jewelry for $100. And we sold them all at anything for $3. That was it. That was the whole deal. So we averaged it out at a big sign, anything for $3. And then start building it up from there. And then, we moved, and anyway, ended up after another year or so, we had the stores, and then we built up the stores, and, then the universe came and said that, and then that went, and so we had to do something else. But anyway, that's just it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then again, begin again, huh?
Oh, plenty times. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's only a few times I've mentioned. I got a whole bunch of other ones for you too. So.
Wow.
So, in other words, if you read my whole story,
it's boring compared to yours, I got to tell you.
I've certainly not had a boring life. But yes, the point of it all, though, all these adventures, when you put it in the context of the learning and the growing and the intent and awareness, then it all makes sense. Then it all becomes a magical story that follows one on the other. The same story with the lottery ticket now. It's not a story of, oh, shame, what a fuck up. No, it's how magical.
How
magical. Right.
Yeah.
It taught me a big lesson, though, too, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I did not do, right, was trust. Trust my own certainty. I knew we would win the lottery. My flaw was in win. Right? We did win the lottery, but it's win in inverted commas, right? So what I should have done is that feeling that I had, which was an absolute certainty and an indisputable knowledge. I didn't trust that. I should have gone down to that store and said, look, I don't care what the TV said. They must have gotten something wrong. I know I won, right? And then if I'd given him the ticket, he would have put it in and said, well, yeah, right? That I did not do. And that was a very powerful lesson. Took me many years to figure that out.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Right? In other words, I did not have sufficient trust.
Yeah, right. You follow through.
Was one instance where I could not question my certainty of feeling. I mean, I've bought lottery tickets after that, but I've never been able to get that same certainty of feeling that I had then. I mean, this was, I cannot tell you how much we didn't even question it. It was like I said, I would say to you, look, I'm going to go down to the store. And you say, okay, it's just a fact. Yeah. I'm going to go in this. I go down to the store. I'll come back. Okay, no problem. Right? It was that level of casual acceptance to it. Like, well, this is just going to happen. It's like, duh. It's like, it wasn't like we have to hype ourselves up and yes, we're going to win. None of that nonsense. No, it was a decision made in the time. Appropriateness was no other way out. And that was it. Yeah. And I doubted that. See? When it didn't come through, I doubted that. And that was the big lesson. When you have that certainty, never doubt.
Right.
No matter what, trust it. And also to understand that when it comes to intent, that there is some flexibility involved. When I said win, the universe, it doesn't take it to what you think you mean and what your intent means, two different things. Yeah. We have to have some flexibility to see the moreness and have that variability, right? It's not as precise as we'd like it to be. Yes, it is in one sense. Somebody can say, well, absolutely you won. But technically you didn't, because you didn't get the first, right?
Right.
But the intent wasn't to get the first prize. The intent was to get enough money to start something and, to be self-sustaining after that. So you have to look carefully at what your actual intent is,
Right.
not the wording, right?
Right.
So this is very, 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 very powerful lesson in terms of perspective shifting, looking at the bigger picture, understanding the depths of the moreness, trust, all of this. So much power came out of that. I couldn't have asked for a better lesson. I mean, if you were to say to me, okay, you know what, you get to redo your life up until that point, and you now get to choose, collect or not collect.
That's interesting. What you wouldn't have collected, I imagine.
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. I would have.
I mean, because I know the value that not collecting that came out.
That came your way. Yeah.
I mean, now I cannot say that if I had collected, I wouldn't have used that opportunity to apply my philosophy in that. Because the same thing, you still got to use your philosophy when it comes to money and investment, but it may have been a very different life, and I don't know.
That sizable fortune would change anybody's life. So, I mean, even though I say, oh, I would have went and got the $1 million, maybe I wouldn't have Justin. Maybe I wouldn't have had any of the things that in my life that I hold dear. So,
now, I'm not the typical lottery winner, and by far not even the typical lottery winner, like 95%. The vast overwhelming majority of lottery winners end up worse off than they were before.
Yeah, I've read stories about that. Yeah.
But again, I understand why, because they live by should and assumption.
Yeah, and they're corrupted by it.
Yeah, exactly. And also they don't have the strength of character to say no to their friends. And they just say, well, I've got plenty of money, I can buy whatever I like. That's a false logic. Your money's limited. And when you buy cars, you've got to pay insurance. You buy houses, you've got to pay maintenance and rent and upkeep. They don't think ahead of one step thinking. Now, I am somebody who does think step 2, step 3, all the way to the end. So I wouldn't have fallen into that trap. But, there's all sorts of other problems that come with money. Trust, for instance. You end up not knowing who your friends are. Now, I would have made sure, if I had one substantial, nobody would have known it. I kept it to myself. Stuff like that. Again, I could have lived a different life. Certainly, I wouldn't have had as much pressure on me to truly prove all of the stuff that I hold sacred, and turn them into self-proving sensibilities. That's the key to the whole way of impeccability. This is not a belief system. They self-proving sensibilities, and that's a whole different logic entirely. Yeah. So, that's a very big difference when you look at stuff from that angle. You don't have to believe the stuff proves itself. Yeah. Very big difference. So who knows? I trust it. That's all you can do. To second guess, it's no good. Yeah. But it is an interesting choice. I mean, here's the key though. If I got to that point where I had to make the decision, it's how much do you know? If I am the me that I am now, I say, well, sure, I'll choose the lottery because now I have all of the experience of, the rest. I've already had that. So I don't need to do it again. And I want the experience of having money to see what it is. But if you get to the same point of the knowledge I had then, I do not, then I absolutely will say, yes, at that point, if I'm making a decision on behalf of the person then, the me of now would say, no, the me of then needed to not win it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because what's more valuable, living a life of ease and comfort with money, or really having your sacred philosophies really proven to you. That's more important. And just the thing on trust alone,
Yeah.
just that one simple thing, just that. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I know most of my life I suffered from excess modesty and humility, which means that I didn't trust myself.
Yeah. Here's
Because
funny. Vivian always used to say, with, unwavering certainty, that a great deal of money was going to come her way. Great deal of money is going to come my way. She always said that. Before I die, a great deal of money is going to come to me. Well, 2 months before she died, she was hospitalized for they were tapping the fluid in her lungs, because that's what eventually killed her 2 months later. But they were tapping it, and she had something about an order on her hospital records that she was a fall risk. Well, it didn't. They changed her floor where she was staying, and somehow that didn't translate, and she fell.
Wow.
And she fell by. They put a little potty chair in her room. She got up in the middle of the night and tried to sit on it, and it went like this. And she fell. Goodness. She broke like 2 bones. She broke her femur right in half.
Wow.
And just as I was preparing to see the attorney, that's when she took a turn for the worse, and she was dead within a few weeks.
Well, she basically, did herself in. She made a self-fulfilling prophecy. So
great deal of money is going to come to me before I die, is what she always said.
Exactly, and it could have or would have, and then your self-fulfilling prophecy. This is to me why awareness, discernment, and understanding is so critically important, because intent can be a two-edged sword. And people always wish for this. Oh, I wish for a great sum of money, and the guy knocks on the door. Hey, here's a check for $1 million. Wow, thank you very much. Well, where did this come from? Well, it's the insurance policy on your son who died. Yeah. So, people don't think that when you set an intent, you've got to be careful. You may get what you want, but at a big cost and a big price, right? So I save my intent for when my back's to the wall. Like in that case there, right? I had no other option, at least in my limited understanding at the time and awareness. Of course, now I know I have many other options, right? But still, so I save my intent for when my back's against the wall. And well, I'm saying, look, universe, I know this intent may end up being inappropriate, but I'm making it because I have no other choice. And therefore, I'm okay. My conscience is clear. But to just put intents out like Vivian, they can have disastrous consequences if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And I see this happen many, many, many times.
Yeah. I mean, in between the lung disease, the kidney disease, and now all these broken bones, that's what killed her. It was like a horse race to see what was going to kill her first. Because she had lupus and diabetes, and I mean, you name it. So it was like a horse race.
In her mind, that may have been sort of, okay, now I can legitimately go. People hang on, and then
I don't know, because she even said to me when she finally got conscious again, because she did have some really lucid periods, and then other times she was completely out of it. She said, "How much do you think I'll get?"
Yeah, they agreed.
I have no idea, sweetheart. I don't know. I'm going to go see the lawyer for you. I'll get the ball rolling for you. She was going to sue the hospital and get all her money.
So then when she died, did the suit go away?
I did not proceed.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for
you. I found out that her and my sister had kept a lot of secrets from me. Her house was in bankruptcy.
So the sister may have pursued it.
No, because Chrissy was homeless. She was living with me. The house was in foreclosure. She had filed for bankruptcy. I found out they were living without heat in their house for the last 3 years. Never told me. So it just, you know what? It just seemed she had all these people suing her, the bank, American Express, all these credit cards. I said, you know what? I don't want any part of any of it.
Good for
I
you.
don't want,
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk away.
Because even if you do pursue the lawyers, all that's going to happen is that all the people that you owed is going to say, "Oh, this is us," and you're just going to get
Ours.
involved.
Yeah, we're going to take it. Yeah.
So yeah, unless it's more than that, which is unlikely, yeah, it was a very good decision. I'm good for you. Good for you. Good.
Yeah, I just walked away.
Yeah. This is something that is really a terrible part of American life, the suing nonsense.
Yeah.
South Africa, yeah, it's there, but it was really like, if you would never say in company that, oh, I'm suing somebody. People would look at you with disgust, like, seriously, what kind of a shithead piece of low life rubbish are you? That was the association with suing.
Well,
Was like,
speaking
it has
of
a very
suing,
negative connotation to it, which okay, it's appropriate sometimes, but in general not. So.
Speaking of lawsuits, the nursing home that she was in for her final 3 weeks of life, she was supposed, Chrissy was handling, my sister was handling, because they lived together. She was handling all this info, and she didn't give them her Medicare stuff or something. I don't know. Somehow, when she died, there was a $7,000 bill at the nursing home, and they sued me for it.
Yeah.
They never even contacted Chris.
Yeah.
But somehow they found out that I had a little money, or and they came after me for it, and I just got a scarier lawyer and wrote a few. I got my own scary lawyer, and they backed off. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a during as a kid, my parents got divorced at age 10, but the divorce didn't go through and got finalized. And that divorce case, it's a long story, right? It went on for another couple of decades after.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. So this was always this ongoing case. And, I'd ask my mother, because it was, for alimony, or we called it something else back then, maintenance. It was called maintenance, not alimony. So, every now and then this had to be uprated, and it's out because it was always too little. But anyway, so I had a lot of connection with lawyers, and the guy that I won the national championship with, sailed together. I sailed on my own too, but anyway, another long story. He was one of the lawyers. Well, anyway, so a little later on, though, when we'd already moved to the big city now, and more lawyers and stuff. One of the lawyers on our side, likely most of the lawyers, he changed lawyers like, I don't know, like diapers. Likely they were being bribed by my father. So at one point, one of the guys that was a lawyer for us, he quits, right? And so I went to his office to deliver papers or whatever, and he says, "Oh, I'm quitting." I said, "Oh, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to become a missionary," right? So he's quitting to going from lawyer to missionary. And the thing he says to me, he's busy walking out the office. He's got his box in his hand. He's ready to go and become a missionary. He said, "Just remember this: the law's a whore. She screws everybody."
The what is a whore?
The law is a whore.
It's a whore.
A nice bit of rhyme there. The law's a whore. She screws everybody.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Always, and it was very unusual, because that's language adults typically wouldn't use. But
especially if you're going to be a missionary, you might want to get that out of your system.
Exactly. But I always had this all my life. Adults would tell me things that they wouldn't say to even other adults. I loved it. It was really something special. It was helpful, because it was a very powerful thing to say, and he knew it would really, be meaningful and impactful. And I never forgot it. It was very powerful.
Oh my gosh.
And I still, had ideas of maybe becoming a lawyer, because I probably would have been a very good lawyer. Just if you have any kind of awareness and discernment, you can be a good lawyer. But, that was part of it too. So, thank you very much. This is no good.
My girlfriend Gwen's husband is an attorney. I don't think I'll say that.
Tell him that.
Should I tell him that?
Oh, absolutely. Tell him that this is.
He has by the way, he has an outrageous sense of humor. He is so funny.
Love it. He'd love it then. Oh, he'd love it then. He'd love it. Yeah.
The law is a whore.
But you could say to him, You know why the law's a whore? Make it into a riddle,
Because
because he screws everybody. You see what I mean? It turned it into a riddle. He loved it. Like, now it's a joke that he can repeat, because, it's like lawyers. They like lawyer jokes usually, right?
Yeah.
That stuck with me, because he obviously, here's a guy who, he's not just saying this because it's something cute to say. He's really seeing this, and he can't.
Yeah, he's seen it, and it wasn't in his moral compass, obviously.
Oh, and it disgusted him. He was, he was burnt out, and you could see that this guy was really disgusted, and he was, his emotional balance was thrown out, but he couldn't live with this stuff anymore. He'd probably kill himself if he would stay with it. He's doing stuff that goes against his conscience, in other words.
Right.
So,
right.
And it's not like that's bad law. South Africa has very good law in this sense, and had a very strong legal system, at that time, very, very powerful, very non-corrupt and all this. But even so, it doesn't matter. It's very interesting. Very different world back then. Yeah, people forget. They think, they tend to neglect countries, especially Americans. If it's not America, everything else is primitive, right? I mean, everywhere else in the world, you grow up in a village. Right? It's villages but there's no villages in America.
Yeah.
No villages in America. They're not even towns in America. It's always a city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even though technically it's a town or a village, no, but they call it a city.
They call it a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just American arrogance. Everybody else in the world said, dude, your town has got 5,000 people. There's no bloody city. It doesn't even have a cathedral. How can you call it a city? That's technically what a city is. It's when it has a cathedral. But I think in demographic terms, there's a certain population number anyway. But
we have a lot of what we call townships.
Right, but again, still, even the people in the township, like I grew up in, they call even a suburb, they call it a city. It's fascinating. It's just the absurdity of American status and ego.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the world just laughs at this. But when you hear people talk, like I remember one person who would come on Zoom, right? And she said to Bina, what village did you grow up? What village do you live in? She says, well, I live in Karachi. It's like the 8th largest city in the world.
Oh, okay.
It's the assumption. She's in Pakistan. She must live in a village. Yeah, it's like, these cities don't, these countries, they're primitive countries. They don't have cities. They don't. It's like the mindset is amazing. But my point is, at that time, South Africa was a ridiculously sophisticated place because of the money from the mining. You ask people, where did the first heart transplant take place? The
first heart transplant
in a human being. Yeah,
I remember hearing this, and I don't know where.
Right, in the city where I lived, right, Cape Town.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just slightly before we moving there, but still, Karl Bremer Hospital. I used to drive past it all the time, and the surgeon's name was Chris Barnard.
Wow.
So. Him and his team, purely in the bubble of South Africa, doing a world first thing, little tiny country, middle of nowhere.
Wow.
So because of the level of sophistication, I mean, the medical, situation there was, top notch because of the money. There's a lot of money. You had a small population. Yes, okay, not everybody got that money, but in that small population, because the wealth level was so high, you had the resultant sophistication, like in the medical and the law and all that. Very interesting place. Very interesting place.
Yeah.
Appropriateness and inappropriateness. You get all of this mess over there. It's very cool. Very good place to choose to grow up in. I truly think we choose the circumstances of our birth.
Yeah. We've talked about that.
Yeah. And and it's useful, even if it's not true. It's useful to assume it so, because it shifts our perspective on what comes afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's odd though, because like I spent so much time with other people's parents growing up. My good friend Kelly, her mom used to say she was going to claim me on her tax return. So I was at her house so much. Yeah. I mean, I'd be there for dinner every night. I mean, yeah.
Right. So look at this from a big picture point of view, right? So let's assume that we go and we live and we repeat, and the whole reincarnation thing really does work the way they said it is, or at least more or less, right? where you come and you learn, and if you don't, you go backwards, and you learn a little bit more. But what if you get stuck? What about real deep entrenched beliefs, which are beyond beliefs, but they become convictions, right? For instance, that you've had centuries of conditioning that you have to love your parents no matter what, right? Now, look at the devastation that this causes. This is a horrible thing. It's not, there isn't more good that comes from it than bad. It's terrible. It robs all the children of their independence, of learning for themselves, of thinking for themselves, and it enables the all sorts and manner of absurd abuse, right?
Well, but you've said before that not everybody is like us.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
I've been validating the untruth in that statement my whole life. You got to love them no matter what. Well, no, I don't. I mean, I choose to love them. I still love them. I still kind of love them, but it's not.
Exactly. In other words, you broke that conditioning because of Vivian. Now, zoom out a little bit, and we come, okay, we're going into that space, and, we're hanging out with the bureaucracy of the angels, and they say, all right, we're going to pick your next life here, or you're going to stay in the void of nothingness. All right, you want to go back again. All right, what are we going to do now next time? What do you need to learn? Right? Now, let's assume this is before you came into this life. What are your odds there? Well, you're really conditioned on this. You're like a really good person. So you take this goodness of that you've got to love your parents no matter what. Look at all your lives. This is something you've always done, and has it really helped you? No. We got to do something to break this cycle, right? Yes, okay, you learned other lessons, and it was, on balance. Now's the time. You've learned a lot of other. Now's the time to break this conditioning. So we got to give you a shitty parents. There we go. All right. You say, yeah, you're right. I need to learn this. I need to break this conditioning. Okay, here I come, Vivian.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Because look at what the consequence would be. Are you prepared to have another 1,000 lives stuck in that loop?
Right. No.
And I see this with women too, or guys, where, it's like, at what point do you get to break the macho loop? What or the reverse, of men are superior, women are inferior. How many women believe this and buy into this shit?
Right.
What a horrible bloody loop to be in. It's absolute crap. At some point you got to break that, and it takes extremes to break extremes. When something is so deep that you don't even question it, right? That's the really horrible stuff. So you have to do something radical to break out of that. So, extremes need extremes. How are you going to break out of it any other way? It's almost impossible, right? You have to basically choose a Vivian.
Yeah.
Isn't that something, Cheryl?
Yeah.
For me, the joy of it is, wow, things make sense.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. In the meantime, it makes sense for me. It makes sense of my life. It doesn't make my life wasted. It doesn't make it crap. It makes it magical. It makes it sacred. It makes it profound.
Yeah.
So I get practical value out of my choice of belief. I want to emphasize this, right?
Okay.
I'm not getting value out of my belief. I'm getting value out of my choice of belief.
Okay.
It's a conscious, deliberate choice. I know it could be complete crap, and when I die, I die, and I just had one life, and it didn't mean nothing, and all this was the biggest load of bullshit, and I won't even know I'm dead. Right? So what? It's giving me value now, but it's a choice,
right.
conscious. Right. I may have a supernatural experience and see my past lives or whatever, and realize, wow, okay, well, it didn't quite work, and then I change everything. But in the meantime,
I've heard somebody say, I'd rather live my life believing what I believe, only to find out that I'm wrong, than to live my life not believing and find out I'm wrong.
Exactly. Or find out I'm right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
we just want to not fall into that trap of going from.
So if you believe in something that enhances your life,
exactly,
what's wrong with that?
Right,
you know?
Right. But we want to be sophisticated here. We don't want to fall into the trap of many people who do this, and during their lives, they come upon an update and they're unable to update.
Okay.
Right? They get locked into it. We don't want to fall into that trap. So
Okay.
I say, hey, it's my choice of belief.
Right.
In other words, I don't want to get into where my beliefs become convictions and I start to conflate belief with fact.
Okay.
Right? Like many people do. You believe what you believe. It's not a fact. And don't mistake the two. Because when something comes along, which now proves your beliefs is just it's nonsense, you can't update. And then you're devastated. And then you fall into that
Right.
trap.
Okay.
And justification and rationalization. I don't want to fall
Yeah.
into that trap. So
Yeah.
I always want to remember it is a conscious, deliberate belief. That's my sophistication, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Very powerful. I just made a comment today on a guy's post. It's an okay post. He's posting about the value of time, but it's a God-given gift. So somebody else made a comment about, God is like as far as your nose or something like that, And I just said, to ameliorate it, because the post is still a good post. I said, you could just substitute the word God for the word, or substitute the word random for the word God, and you get pretty much the same results, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which really makes you think, when you read anything now where you see God written, and just put random in there and say, does this still hold true? And yes, it does. It's quite fascinating.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but that doesn't mean that we cannot choose it, because that same guy who posted it, he's making general posts of sensibility, hello, Erica. And he might say, well, you just screwed things up for me. I got a lot of value out of my belief in God. And I said, well, you can still choose to have it. You just don't
Okay.
have it. Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
value out of it. So as long as you know what you're doing, be aware.
Yeah.
Don't do things in ignorance and limited awareness and lack of choice. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All
So
right.
such a way to see Erica, right? Doesn't she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like,
She's a sweetheart.
yeah.
Hi, Erica.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.